I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk to folks from the VTuber community about their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. On this podcast, we are joined by Estelle Enchantra. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Estelle Enchantra. I'm something of a variety VTuber who currently does IT support on the side.
Wow. Well, if you're gonna do stuff with computers, at least you know exactly what you're doing.
I had to fix my own mic several times already.
Well, I can use you to come over here and fix my stuff, but I don't think I can afford it. I appreciate you coming on. How long have you been doing the VTuber thing?
Let's see, I had my model made a solid year ago now, but I've only done a couple of streams since due to spending time with family on the side here.
Life, getting in there and taking up a lot of time and hopefully that you've been able to enjoy spending the time away from the internet.
Much of it.
Yep, sounds good to me. Sometimes you get involved in something like this and it takes up too much of your time, but that hasn't been the case for you yet.
Not yet. I've been spending as much time as I could with family, and in the meantime, I did upgrade my computer significantly while waiting on starting up here, so.
Yeah, yeah. It now what has it taken for you to get started on VTubing? Did you just see somebody doing it and decide you wanted to, or was it something you wanted to do for a long time?
It's something that I wanted to do around when the pandemic started. I think HoloLive launched their first English branch, and I saw that and thought, wow, we over on the English side can do this too.
Yeah, yeah,
And I started to want to, but then took a while to get a model ready, that's for sure.
yeah. How tough was it to get model going? Did you try to design yourself, or did you have somebody else do it?
I am not artistically inclined. However, I did work a while on figuring out the concept I wanted to go for. And once I found it, I had to just go find the tools for people to help me make one.
Mhm.
And once that was done,
You know
just
what?
came down to getting the money together, really, which wasn't too hard.
Yeah. Now, so this was a case you really wanted it to be perfect for you.
Oh, yes. I can handle failure, but I can't handle failure when it could have been avoidable.
Yeah, it sounds like an IT person.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Well, really, you guys are. I mean, you guys are the backbone of every place you're at. So, you guys always have my hats off from me, because I know what IT folks really mean to companies. And if I was smart, maybe I would have gone back and done that instead of radio and made money instead. But the you getting into VTubing and coming on, been kind of sporadically at the moment. Are you looking to do a little more in this year?
I am looking to do a lot more this year. I have managed to make a schedule for myself, and I intend to stick to it and see how it goes for a full year. I'm very much about making the schedule, sticking to it, and then seeing how that lands first before making a decision.
So what are you going to do? What are you going to do on stream once you get that schedule going?
I intend to do a decent amount of gaming.
Hmm.
Obviously, the Twitch is made for that,
Right.
but chatting, I want to focus on building up a community above all else.
Hmm. So what type of games will you be playing?
I'm very big on strategy, but I'm also very big on competition. I like to compete with others wherever I can. Maybe do a tournament here or there.
Yeah. Which type of games would be those types of tournaments?
Well, I do a lot of Pokemon, that's for certain.
Right.
I did participate in card game tournaments for a bit. Some Yu-Gi-Oh there, Pokemon there, really any card game except for Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. And
Nothing against Magic, it's just every time I come back to it, there's a whole new set I need to learn.
yeah,
So,
yeah, it's kind of you get kind of a setup where all the rules change every time you come back to it, and you have to relearn it all over again. And
and as somebody that plays all the card games, the rules changing each time isn't great for me.
no, no, no. it's tough enough to keep up with the rules and the games you keep up with sometimes.
Exactly.
Is there a big online Pokemon type of thing that you can do for tournaments?
There is a big Pokemon thing. It's called Showdown. They just basically the letters open always to play on, and they do tournaments. I think about every 2 hours.
Wow, well, that's pretty big. How do you have your own um, deck, Pokemon decks of cards to work with, or do they give you decks to work with?
Let's see. Well, for the video game, we can just play on the online servers, but
Right.
for online, yes, I do. For card games, I do have my own physical deck where I can play with people
Hmm.
at the local shop, and I can also play online, though that is a different deck since can't exactly scan your deck into the internet.
Right. So I really I obviously I don't know exactly how this works, but with the online card game for Pokemon, do you have to obtain the cards somehow, or because people know
Yes.
how to obtain the physical cards, but online do you have to buy them like you would a regular Pokemon pack?
So Pokemon's a little different from other online card games in that you buy a physical pack, and when you do that, you get a card inside that pack that you can scan, and it'll get you a card pack inside of the game with completely different cards.
So that's what those are for.
That's what those are for.
Wow. So it only took me 100 years to figure that out. And I watch people open packs and there's a scan card and they throw it away. And like, well, there's a lot of people who could be using those scan cards.
Oh yes, they don't sell for very much those online card packs. It's like only like 5 or 10 cents each, but believe me, they add up when you collect in real life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, who knows what you could end up with? Um, do you is there a difference when you are online with these games? I mean, is a shiny different than a regular Pokemon? Is there any point in getting a special type of card of a certain Pokemon?
Usually there is. So every single time they release the Pokemon again, it has a new set of attacks. It has a different HP stat,
Uh-huh.
and those are really what are important for the deck. So it generally matters. Sometimes they're even a different type.
Oh, they changed types. I know that wasn't there one type that they've stopped using completely. Um,
Um, there's no type that they've stopped using. They have added types over the
wow,
years, though.
yeah, and then you have the combined types that are both like uh, fire and something else, and that would be very tough for an old guy like me to get started in. Although it looks like the strategy would be off the charts with something like that.
Indeed, Pokemon is one of the simpler card games to learn for sure. I have 10 siblings myself, and I could teach any one of them to play in about a solid 10 minutes. It's sticking with it that keep gets difficult.
So when you get up to a certain level of proficiency, what makes the difference between an elite player and someone who just knows what they're doing?
Deck building would definitely be the first thing that you need to master before you start getting into the big leagues. Because at first it's like I want to have Charizard in the deck, but I
Mhm.
also want to have Arcanine in the deck. And in the end, once you get more competitive, you really just run one Pokemon and then other things to just make that one work.
Yeah. So you're trying to buff up one certain Pokemon, but you don't want to have too many of a certain type.
Well, you do want to have basically you always want to focus on one type and
Mm.
one Pokemon, but like let's say Blastoise has an ability that gets you a ton of energy because that's how the cards work that make their attacks.
Right.
You want to run the Blastoise with the Charizard, but you're not running Blastoise there to beat your opponent's Pokemon. He's just sitting there supporting you rather than being on the front.
Hmm. So those are the
Remember when I was young, I would like put a deck where it's just like, I want this fire type and this fire type. It was all fire types, but you only wanted to run one of those, and everything else is supporting cast,
yeah.
basically.
So, but you would like have like a tank occasionally that could take some damage for you.
Absolutely. A tank at the front while you're building up your Charizard in the back would be essential.
Wow. So if you were to put up, say, go into a tournament and try not to give away your secrets, but if you were to put together an ideal group of Pokemon to go into a tournament, what would you like to play with?
Let's see. Oh, for Pokemon right now, I would need to look at the sets again. 2 years ago, I was running Zacian, the sword dog from the new generation.
Uh-huh. And what would you have to back him up?
Galarian Berserker. He was a evolution of Meowth for that generation, and he boosted steel type attacks by 30 damage as long as he was somewhere on your bench.
Wow, that's pretty good.
It was pretty great. Yeah,
Yeah,
you just try to get as much of him out as you could.
yeah. I mean, that's a that's a almost a double buff there for crying out loud. And these are supplemental. So that's where you get the strategy involved in the game.
Exactly. You have something there that's there to get the kills and something there that's there to make sure you get there.
Yeah, that's something that folks who maybe only played the video game don't really know the strategy behind the card game
The,
that much,
the
or people.
card game plays entirely differently. The only thing that really lines up is you will know your type weaknesses.
Mm, yeah. Now, does it irritate you to watch people just collecting them?
Not at all. I collect also.
Ah,
Because when you're buying enough of the packs to get the cards you want instead of buying the singles, you might as well start putting them in a binder.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I they would it. I wonder whether some folks get angry that people who don't know anything about the game itself will buy up all of the boxes at a Walmart.
I can see why people could be upset by it. I try to see everything from a point of view. From their perspective, like I said, Zacian was the top dog 2 years ago.
Hmm.
I could see if somebody got one out of a booster pack and they put it in a binder instead of putting it in a deck to use. I can see where people would be like, "Oh, come on, that's a waste of what you could do with it." But
Yeah,
like, ultimately, it's people's choice what they want to do with it.
yeah,
And if they wanted to use it in a deck, you'd probably want four of it, not one. So I don't really get that, but
yeah, yeah. When send in for degrading and get a 3 on it. Like you
exactly.
could be using that in an actual game. Uh,
And then the collectors would get mad at the players. How could you use such a valuable card when you could have it graded and
yeah,
sent in?
yeah. It's like a stock exchange sometimes, or a lottery. As it gets, I still am a sports card collector, and I haven't bought a new pack in a long time because it's just become a lottery, basically, as far as that goes. That
I know about that. My aunt collects the sport cards. I
Yeah,
talk with her. Apparently, there's new hockey cards that came out recently. We
yeah,
talked about that about a month or two ago.
yeah. There's all sorts of new stuff, but again, it's you the when I was a kid, back in the ancient days, we opened the pack and like, oh wait, that's a player I wanted, and now I'm learning about the players. Now it's like I'll throw away these 9 cards to see what I got on this other one, and
I
not
do
even
think
looking
one
at it.
thing I've missed since COVID is definitely the trading cards with friends at like a playground or a summer camp.
Hmm.
Like, I haven't had much of that recently.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be big in this day age. They'd rather you'd buy it off of them, and
Exactly. It's just I don't know how I feel about that one.
yeah. Now, what other types of games would you like to play on stream this year?
Definitely role-playing games.
Uh-huh.
They feel there's such a story with those, and I am a writer as well, so I do look into the bigger motifs of stories that happen, and there's just been some really good role-playing games that came out, and I haven't even touched yet. Playing
Wow.
that on stream feels like real a good time.
So, which ones are you going to aim for?
Let's see. Persona,
Mhm.
definitely. I've only played two of them, and there are five, so
Yeah, you've
I
got
need to get on some of those.
60% to go, so you're not even halfway home yet.
Not even halfway there.
Well,
Other games that came out, I know like Helldivers isn't much of an RPG. That's more of just a cooperative fun experience. But I do know there was something else that came out. It's on the tip of my tongue.
mm. Well, the Persona type games are people who enjoy those really enjoy those games.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah.
I have found series that I'm diehard fans for. However, those games tend to disappear from the face of the earth, so I
It's
always get in tentatively.
Yes. Yeah, you get in. You get in a little bit. It's hard to do if you start off with like the third one in a series, and then and
That's what I've learned is usually the case. Like
yeah,
I tried getting into a game once, I think it was called like Hyperdimension Neptunia, and it's like this was fresh off of Final Fantasy 13, to which it's like the Final Fantasy series, if you don't know, you
right,
can go in wherever you like. Those are all separated stories.
right, yeah. Sometimes they
But
don't have anything to
apparently
do
that
together.
one was chronological, and I needed to go back to the start. So
Now, something different would be like a something that's changed significantly, like Fallout 2 to 3. I mean, obviously that was a big difference in how the game was played, and you could jump
exactly, I
in.
remember playing Fallout 3. I was not too young when that came out, but
Yeah,
decently young.
yeah. Well, I played 1 and 2, and then finally played 3 about 100 years later, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Actual first person shooter type stuff, and that goes. It definitely there is still strategy involved, but not like the 1 and 2 were the positional turn type things. That was that.
Yes, I remember I was interested to learn about 1 and 2 after because it was this weird thing of playing Fallout 3 first with my father and just he's just like, I see how the VATS system works where you aim down the sight and you can like and slow down time and aim for specific body parts. He's like, I see how this plays like it used to, and I'm just like, there's a 1 and 2, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah,
How did those play?
yeah. But much differently, especially 1 plays a lot differently. And you want to cheat as much as possible in 1 to get through it. If you played 2 before 1, um, these games that you're going to do this year, are they games that you already have, or are there games that are coming out that you're looking forward to?
There are games that are already out and I have just sitting in my library waiting to play at this point.
Hmm.
Um, though when games come out, I do look at them usually, see what the reception is because reception has been a big thing with games recently.
Mm. So you will kind of skew a little bit toward what people want to see, as opposed to what you'd want to play on your own.
I would prefer it to be a mix of both. If it is a game that I look at and just don't see the appeal to myself, I don't see any reason to pick it up just because it's popular.
Yeah.
But when I hear like there's a new Assassin's Creed coming out, for example, Assassin's Creed games have been hit or miss in my opinion
Hmm.
since for a while here. So I would like to see some other people play it first, maybe, or and see what their review is, rather than pay that upfront cost and go right into it and then say this is one of the ones I didn't want to play.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah. Games are all over the place price wise too. I mean, you could get a really good game catch on for a decent price. I mean, in the $20 range, and that could be a game that you could play for years and enjoy over and over again. Or you can pay, 60 plus for a game that you really hate and had a lot of people put into it, but you don't enjoy it whatsoever. It's a very wide range of things as far as that goes. Do you tend to look for the games that maybe you can play for a long time rather than what's popular at the time?
I always am looking for things that I can stick with long term. I like games that I can play and sit down and play for probably a good month or two and then maybe leave it for a bit, but I want to always be able to come back to it.
Is it replayability big for you?
Replayability is huge for me. I
Yeah.
would love to be able to come back and play a game again in an entirely different set of eyes.
Well, it would be tough for me to do a game that would be like those visual novel games because there's really only one ending, and once you get there, that's pretty much it. And going back again, maybe there's a little side quest here or there. There isn't really a lot of replayability to that whatsoever.
Visual novels are interesting to me because I do play those as well.
Hmm.
The usually it's you go down a path and you want to get to the ending. Usually, you got to make choices to get to the certain ending. But with quite a few of them now, there's routes to them where you actually need to replay the game several times to see all these different endings.
Hmm. Well, I'm bad at them enough to where
That's
I wouldn't find any ending at that point. But you being a writer, do you see these games a little differently maybe than other folks? I mean, do you see dialogue and storylines where I would have done it a little differently.
It's interesting playing through a visual novel and reading one of the dialogue options and saying, if I say this, this character's not going to like that, and this one's going to like it. So I get right from the first dialogue option, I'm just like, oh, we're already picking which route we're going down.
You're seeing through the traps already. So, how long have you been a writer? I mean, what have you put out there?
I've been doing fan fiction writing since I was like 13,
Yeah.
but I started writing more novel format when I turned 18.
Hmm. So,
I came down with a sudden case of having a lot of free time around, then I'll say.
yeah, and you're able to put your pen to paper and continue with it and work with it until you finally get something. Everybody's got supposedly has stories running around their heads, but don't know how to put it on paper. Was that easy for you?
I was definitely one of the people where the story was in my head, but it wasn't going down to paper. But once I had basically nothing better to do, I was bedridden, stuck there, and with a laptop and nothing else, and the internet connection was awful, and I said, you know what? Microsoft Word does not require an internet connection, and I sat down and started writing.
Wow. And was it a situation where you had the entire novel in your head, or was it one where you kind of got to a certain point and said, "Well, let's try this," and you went back and had to rewrite a bunch of things?
I had the major points in my head. However, I had to fill in blanks still for sure.
Mm. So sometimes it was just divine inspiration all of a sudden.
It really was divine inspiration. There was a lot of writing at that point.
And you wake up in the middle of the night, give me that computer. I've got it.
I remember I spent a very long time writing. I think I sat down for about 8 hours straight, took a nap, woke up, and just went right back to it.
Mm, oh my gosh, my hat's off to you for that because I've always wanted to do something along those lines, but I tend to more talk than actually write anything. But in today's day and age, someone who wants to continue doing that in a technology-driven society who really will put the words down is rare indeed. So I congratulate you for that.
Thank you, thank you. Like I said, once I put my mind to something, once I say I'm going to do this, it's time to get it done.
So you've got your schedules set up. When can we see a regular schedule for you, and is it going to happen soon?
You can expect to see me going online occasionally throughout May, mostly mic checks here and there, make sure everything keeps working.
Mm-hmm.
I am currently still having issues with the camera, getting a new one,
Oh, gee.
but that'll be fixed by May. So expect once everything's checked out and I'm confident that everything will be working, expect regularness in June.
Well, sounds good, folks. We'll have the links to find out what Estelle Enchantra's got going on in the description for this interview. It's great to meet you, and I can't wait to see what you got planned for us.
Thank you, thank you. It's been great being here.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.